5 of Nothing to Say, the Fans Podcast. I'll be real with you guys. We had an entire show planned out and ready to go, and then the NFL and this gigantic story comes out about Jon Gruden, and everything that we had planned just literally, like Sam was showing, just exploded. We had to rewrite the whole show. We had to rewrite the whole show. We've been scrambling to try to get our thoughts collected and all that stuff. So at least for the first half of the show, we're going to be talking about Jon Gruden and the events that have taken place over the past 48 to 72 hours with him and the Las Vegas Raiders.
Hey, even longer than that.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to go back to the first report. So before we get into that, Sam, how was your weekend? How you doing? It was a crazy weekend of football.
Yeah, I don't even think anything really holds in comparison to what is going on with the Raiders organization. I mean, I guess individually on my level, the Niners loss sucks. The Giants are up 2-1 in the NLDS and about to play tonight. We're recording this on Tuesday, and it's going to come out on Thursday. So hopefully the Giants have made it into the NLCS and now playing the winner of Atlanta and who is that other team? Atlanta and the Brewers. Yeah, Atlanta and the Brewers, which, I mean, hopefully the Giants kick the Atlanta/Brewers ass on Thursday night, hopefully, or Friday night, you know?
Right.
So hopefully that happens. And both my fantasy teams won. So I can't be mad about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I wanted to get started with something positive before we jump into the whole Jon Gruden thing and get really serious. So I wanted to ask you about that. And I also got some fast facts for you guys, something we introduced a long time ago, kind of pushed away, but I'll bring back for this one because there are two things definitely worthy of mentioning real quick. I have this full story right here with me. It reads, Shailene Flanagan runs 2 marathons in 2 days. The 40-year-old won her age group at the Chicago Marathon Sunday with a time of 2 hours, 46 minutes, and 39 seconds. On Monday, she completed the Boston Marathon in 2 hours, 40 minutes, and 34 seconds. She is 2 marathons away from running all 6 major marathons in under 3 hours over a 6-week span. That is ridiculous. Easily one of the most impressive physical feats I've ever heard in my entire life. I wouldn't even dream about running the marathon. And the fact that she has done 2 in 2 days and is doing 6 in 6 weeks, that is ridiculous. So just a little bit on that. Sam, quick reaction to Miss Flanagan just absolutely flying in these marathons.
Dude, I can't even get myself to get out of bed and run 2 miles a day. I don't even think I could fathom running in how fast of a pace is that?
I mean, I don't know what the time would be, but the only thing that I can compare it to is I've been mountain biking a lot with my dad before, and we've done rides that are like 10, 15 miles, but like literally riding 26 miles is a long time.
Yeah.
So to run 26 miles like that, on back-to-back days is ridiculous.
That's like asking the NFL players to play like the Super Bowl again the day after the Super Bowl. Like, this is the biggest thing that they have to do physically. And then immediately after, no reprieve. Like, this is like an MLB pitcher throwing 100 pitches in a postseason game. And then the very next day throwing another 100 pitches in a postseason game. It can't be healthy. Running's not healthy for you anyway. This is insane.
So that was a headline I did not expect to read, along with this one as well. I think this one was a little bit more unlikely. This was a headline that I read today. J.R. Smith was attacked by bees in his first collegiate golf tournament. I'll leave it at that. J.R. Smith, yes, is competing in collegiate golf. He is actually really good at golf, but to read, first of all, J.R. Smith playing collegiate golf, that was a surprise. Getting attacked by bees, and then also him being in a collegiate golf tournament. Just all three of those things together. I just painted a funny image in my head.
So imagine, this is honestly so poor of a job for me because I don't know what university he's playing at, but imagine being the teammate of J.R. Smith. Like, you're just a college freshman coming in, and J.R. Smith, who's an NBA champion, who's a millionaire who's J.R. Smith, really, with all the different nuances that come with being himself. And then he is your teammate, like he's standing next to you in the locker room. Like that is just so bizarre. And then now his first ever tournament, it's the most J.R. Smith thing to get attacked by bees. He was probably just walking over to his ball and then right next to a tree, and then bees just came out of nowhere and attacked him. I mean, this is the guy that attacked his coach by throwing a bowl of soup in his face. Do you remember back then as a Cleveland Cavalier?
Right now, he is playing for North Carolina A&T. So North Carolina Agriculture and Technical State University. So there you go.
And what a life J.R. Smith gets to live. He was a professional basketball player straight out of high school. And then he's not done there. Now he gets to play golf for free at a high level and get all this. I mean, it's not like he needed free things after a whole career, but it's just
right.
What a perfect life. If you could draw up your life, I think that would be it. I mean, he was an NBA champion two-time NBA champion. One of them, he didn't even have to go on the court at all. Like, we're talking about a luxurious life here.
Man is living his best life. He really is. So just a couple interesting notes and some fast facts that I thought I'd give you guys before we rolled into the big conversation that we're going to go into. The show tone is obviously going to shift once we talk about Jon Gruden, but wanted to start the show off with a little bit of a laugh. I'm wearing my Raider hat in support of the Raiders organization, not Jon Gruden. But being the resident Raider fan on the show, I had some thoughts that I wanted to share about Jon Gruden and the Raiders as a whole. Specifically some thoughts about Jon starting off and then about what the Raiders organization I think should do moving forward from this. So I wrote it all out, so I'll read it here for you guys. So in case you guys don't know, just a quick background. The New York Times reported that Jon Gruden used misogynistic language and homophobic language for years per a review of his emails. Now, in those emails, Gruden denounced the emergence of women referees, the drafting of a gay player, and the tolerance of protest during the national anthem. And he was already under investigation for a racial trope used in 2011. It was in an email that he sent in 2011, which was directed at NFLPA executive DeMaurice Smith. So that's the background. So my thoughts. If you are Jon Gruden, who has come out and said that he never wanted anybody to get hurt, the last thing that you would want to do is put what you are thinking in writing. Because on one hand, I'll believe him. I want to believe him that he didn't want anybody to get hurt. But I fully understand if someone comes from the other side and says, yes, he did. Because if he didn't, then he wouldn't have put it in fine print. If it was so meaningful to him to not hurt anyone, then you don't lay it out there for somebody to find. Now, there is something to be said about stuff we say with our friends and stuff we say in public. And while I am in no way defending what Jon Gruden said, what he has to understand is in his position where he is a representative of not just the Raiders, but the NFL as an organization, you cannot say stuff publicly or privately and expect nothing to come of it, not of this nature. Now, social media has had a massive chunk of people claiming cancel culture, the league is soft, everyone is soft, why does it matter what he said years ago? Well, the truth of the matter is that's not true. It was not cancel culture or anything like that because it does matter. It matters because if the NFL is going to be making advancements in matters such as allowing more women into the NFL, coaches, referees, having more players coming out as gay, and having a league full of all kinds of different races and beliefs, especially now when player empowerment is as important as ever, someone who has expressed on numerous occasions to be against that, the NFL can never truly move forward as an organization if Jon or people like Jon are in it. So, to Jon Gruden, really good riddance from now on. So if you are the Raiders, we'll move on from Jon. If you are the Raiders, here is what I'll say. As athletes, we have all had a coach that we would run through a brick wall for. And we've also had coaches, I'm sure, that if they asked us to run through a brick wall, we'd go, I'm gonna need a little bit more convincing.
You try running through first. Try running a couple laps first, and then we'll see
right,
about me going through the brick wall.
Yeah, you go first. So I don't know what everybody's relationship with Jon was, or what kind of coach he was viewed as by the players. But the truth is, none of that matters. As players, our biggest obligation as athletes is not to our coaches. It never is. It is to our teammates. That is it. That is the number one obligation you have as a player. It's to your teammates, not to your coaches. And if you play professionally, you also have a big obligation to your family, because playing the game is your job. So no coach is more important than those two things. And while a coach does play a vital role in the success of the team, it starts with the player. So my advice to the Raiders, not like they're going to take it, but here's what I'll say. Use this as a rallying point. Everyone is going to look at the Raiders and say they're done. But inside the locker room, nothing should change. You are the 6th seed right now. If the playoffs started today, you are in. It is a 17-week season, and you have a chance to do something special. You need to look at each other and push forward as a team and as players and as a group of – you need to stay together as a family. Jon is gone. The Raiders are not. The season is not. Use this as a way to look at the world and say, we're stronger than this distraction. So nothing should change, because your two biggest obligations, one to your players, to your teammates around you, and to your family, those are still there. The goal has not changed. Even though Jon is gone, the season is not lost. I understand that people are going to be asking you questions about it, but don't use this as an excuse. Push forward and stay together. So those are my thoughts about Jon Gruden and the Raiders. Sam, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Well, I mean, it's not like I'm just going to share I think we need to have like a legitimate conversation. And totally, dude, you would know better than I of the type of person that Jon Gruden is. Of course, neither of us have met him. Neither of us have spent time with him over the years, which I really wish was available, really, to get to know the guy. Because when we're talking about, because this is more of a character talk than a X's and O's or like ability to do their job type of discussion. This is really just a discussion of one's character and the merits that has on their job status. And it's really tough to make that decision from secondhand knowledge. Like, this isn't first person perspective on it. We are hearing things and then we make decisions based off those things. So from what I've read and what I've heard and what I've seen, and even with the information that you've disclosed, I think I've come to a couple conclusions, of course. I think the biggest thing is the things that he wrote in those emails. For what started was, from what we know, in 2011 to as late as 2017. These emails were shared in almost like a group chat in email sense, where there was many people on this email chain. One of the biggest ones was the former Washington football team president, which I'm blanking on his name like now. I think it's Larry Allen. It doesn't matter, but Gruden and Allen were two of the more prominent participants in this chat. And this is where these emails were taken from. And they span from homophobic slurs and racial discriminatory slurs, and just different about, like you said, the representative of the NFLPA. What was his name again? It was Damari Smith. Yeah. And then many times about Roger Goodell, he brought up in reference to Michael Sam's drafting, which was the first openly gay football player drafted in the NFL. And then female coaches or female referees. I mean, his rather open I guess, or his strong stance against the inclusion of female referees in the sport was pretty apparent. I think all of that comes out is so heinous that you can't defend what he said. Like, it is, the times have passed that speech by. What I think differ on is this idea of, and he might not be the guy to really put on a pedestal, not a pedestal, make an example of this of, because what happened was in 2017. So they brought up emails as late as 2017, right?
Mm.
And he was hired in 2018 to the Raiders again. But because these things were said in a 10-year span, and I can only take Jon at his word. I've never met him, and I don't think it's fair to really assume. I don't want to assume the worst in the guy, right? I would like to think that he's changed. I'd like to think that he has progressed with the times, because we can all sit here and admit that society had accepted what Jon Gruden said back then. Like, those were more accepted, for right or wrong. It was more accepted and less egregious of speech as it is now. Right.
Still egregious, yes. But
yeah, but like,
no, I get what
saying
you're saying.
that it was right. I'm saying that society all thought those wrong things that are being said were okay, but it's still wrong. It doesn't change the fact.
The tolerance for them was, well, there's less of a tolerance now.
So my feeling is that if Jon is sitting, if I were the Raiders, I would go up to Jon and be like, hey, these things came up as early as 2011. You can be a completely different person than you were in 2011. Your stance could have changed. You can be like, with more information, you could have grown into what we know you are now, right? Mm-hmm. If you admit to what has happened and sit there and be like, hey, I was wrong back then, but I am now a person of change, and really use his platform that he had, because he's, I think, easily one of the top 5 most recognizable, famous NFL coaches in the league.
He's up there
with his profile. So I think that's a big image, that if he were to use that position to prop up the narrative of, hey, guys like me, because he's a relatable figure. He's a white male, wealthy. I mean, that's a majority. So he's a figure that can be sort of like an impactful voice of where, like, hey guys, like, everyone, what I said, that was completely wrong. I do not stand by that at all. And if he were to actively move against that, like, then we see he's supporting the hiring of female referees. He's donated this, but like putting himself into all these causes. Then I think it actually flips into a really, really good thing in the necessary need for change with these different causes. I know that was super long-winded, and even myself, like, I didn't formulate it right before I spoke, but like, I think now I think that it just almost, I don't know, man. This is such a slippery subject, and it's definitely tough that we've progressed or are trying to progress so fast as a society that maybe, and for all I know, Jon is just an awful person. But if he's not, then as a society, are we not allowing him the ability to change and adapt? Or are we just saying, hey, the mistakes you did back then, it doesn't matter even what you do now?
Well, I get what you're saying because I can hear the argument for a quote unquote second chance, right? Um, and with that first email that came out about DeMaurice Smith, I was actually listening to a podcast and I heard what was the reporter on it. There's a podcast chain called Locked On Podcast Chain. It's basically what it is it's a show for there's a show for all 30 NFL teams, all 32 NFL teams. So there's one for the Niners, there's one for the Raiders, there's one for every team, and it's a weekly, daily show. So I was listening to the Raider one, and I was listening to the reporter who hosts that show. He actually read the email, or he read the comments that were up in debate in that sense. I'm not going to read them out loud on the show or anything like that, but he's a black man. He came on the show and he said that reading that email, and this is just him, he wouldn't have taken any offense to what Jon said. I read the email as well, and I read and I looked at it and I was like, well, these comments, if taken out of context, really could be used for anybody. They're like, if you were taking it completely out of context and just reading it as a sentence, you wouldn't be able to identify that it was, or at least I don't think I wouldn't be able to identify that it was directed towards like an individual race in that sense, or somebody from an individual race. It was kind of a blanket comment. It wasn't specific. So I looked at those comments and I listened to what the reporter was saying, and basically what he was saying was it didn't seem like that email was going to be something that was going to have Jon fired. When I was thinking about, and the reason why I didn't think Jon was going to get fired because that initial email was because the NFL's in a weird spot with this because they've had players who have been accused of sexual assault, domestic violence, and stuff that is much more. All of these things that happen are equally bad in the sense that they're not tolerable at all. But I think there is a little bit of a difference between domestic violence and what somebody said on an email, at least in my opinion. I'm not going to tell anybody how you should or you shouldn't feel. But those players have been let back in the league. So that first email, I was like, okay, Jon's going to get a big slap on the wrist, and that's going to be it. But then with all these other emails that came out, I think what got to Jon is that it was a repetitive thing throughout the year. So I understand that there's an idea for maybe a second chance. However, like I said in my opening statement, if the NFL is going to be allowing more women into the league as coaches and referees, which I'm all for, and they're going to have more players who are coming out as openly gay, which I'm all for, and they're going to be moving forward with progressive change and kind of with the way that society is kind of moving forward. If you have somebody who has demonstrated contrary behavior to that, you can't have them in the organization. You just can't. The problem that you're going to run into is Jon is not the only person in the NFL, I guarantee you, who thinks these things. There's no way. The NFL is too big.
It's such a community, it's such a tight-knit community of guys that have been in the NFL for decades that have talked, think the same way. Yeah. There is no way Jon Gruden is voicing that sole opinion. There's just zero way.
So the thing that somebody could say, is the thing that I could hear people argument is, there are other people who do this too. So, okay, yeah, you're right. There are going to be other people who do this too. But that doesn't give you any justification to not take care of the person you know about. You have evidence that this person is doing this, so you need to take care of it. You can't really do anything about the other people because you really don't have evidence. All you can do is set a precedent for moving forward, that if we find out about this, you're gone. And the league needs to set that precedent. So the firing of Jon Gruden, I'm all for, and I think it was right. I understand that people are going to argue, like I keep saying, that there are other people out. You're right, there are. But the NFL can't do anything about it right now. All they can do is take care of what's in front of them.
So the question of if he is allowed to keep his job and show almost prove that he does not share the beliefs that he had close to 10 years ago, is that you wouldn't be for that at all? I mean, oh, so
I,
I was just thinking about this. So there was his homophobic remarks, right? And then his clear opposition to Michael Sam being drafted in the NFL. But it's interesting because Carl Nassib, the
I was
only
about to say,
openly
yeah,
gay NFL athlete, is on Jon Gruden's team.
yeah.
So doesn't, and maybe that is totally coincidence. Like if he may have been totally aware of the risks of him getting rid of the first openly gay active NFL player and the like almost recourse that would have come from that, or is it almost a signification of his growth and his ability to put aside his beliefs for the organization?
Well,
Almost.
we don't know who necessarily brought Carl Nassib in because that could have been a Mike Mayock thing.
Well, Jon Gruden's getting paid $10 million. Like Jon Gruden has the final say, does he not?
I get that, but you also have to understand that when Nassib was brought into the team, he wasn't openly gay, so Jon didn't know about it.
That's what I was just.
Yeah, so it's not.
asking.
So I don't think we could use that as a defense for Jon in that sense.
But would Carl play?
I don't know.
If he was
that's
truly.
The thing. But that's the thing though, is if you have and this is if you have somebody in the NFL like this, what Jon now is he's a center for controversy on both sides. People are going to be for him and people are going to be against him. Players are going to be for him and players are going to be against him. So what he is, like I said, a symbol for controversy. And what you can't have, or what you want to limit on your team, but to the NFL, is controversy. And I think what the NFL could do, and this is what you're talking about, a second chance thing, kind of, is you fire him right now, but in the coming years, if Jon is still going to be in communication with the NFL, maybe they can allow him to show that he's changed, or to have, maybe the NFL and him can work through some of this stuff to show that he's changed, to show that he's apologetic for it and all that other stuff. And then maybe later on down the road, he can find another role in the NFL, maybe not as prominent as a head coach, but your second chance doesn't come right now. Maybe it comes down the road once you've proven all of the stuff that the NFL needs to see.
So would this situation be different if it was, say, Andy Reid, or I don't even want to say Bill Belichick, because I feel like if all this came out about Bill, I think people would be like, of course that came out about him, almost because he's sort of a villain. But maybe like a Pete Carroll type, where they're right now beloved figures, but they're on the older side. They obviously have history. Like I am not saying that they hold any racist ideas or like remarks, like anything like that. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying, theoretically, they have something in their past that comes up, but then they don't have this openly like friction with Roger Goodell and the NFLPA and the NFL front office. Like that had to have played a role into the fact that Gruden is now out as an NFL coach. The fact that he is not on good terms. Oh, well, come on.
Maybe, but I mean, you'd like to think that it wasn't, and you'd like to think that it was just solely because of these emails.
So what if he was Roger Goodell's like best friend? Do you think he's out of a job right now?
I would like to believe so. Who knows? It's tough because, like I said, the NFL has done some weird stuff with the way that they punish some of these players. They have gone to the extremes, and they have gone to well, that's not enough. They've done both with players and with coaches. So I think, like I said, my guess is that because if it was just the 2011 email to DeMar Smith, then I don't think Jon Gruden is out of a job. On that Locked On podcast, that the reporter who hosted actually talked about how Jon had met with the team previously, had met with all the players, told them what was going on in the situation, what he said, and he apologized to all of them. And multiple players came out and said, yeah, we talked about it. He told us we're good. So the team was good before the extra emails came out. So I think the fact that there was such an overwhelming amount of evidence against Jon in that sense, that is what just tipped the scale. I think the Raiders and the NFL were probably going to let that DeMar Smith slide with a big slap in the wrist. But because it was like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it just seemed like it kept coming, then it was just like, okay, well, we can't have you here right now. It doesn't mean we can't have you down the road, but because they've allowed people back in the league after some pretty bad stuff, but we can't have you in the league right now. So I think it was just because it was one of those things like, that ride at Sunsplash that's got water in it, and then once it fills up, it dumps all the water. That it was one of those things where it was like the water was filling up with that first email, but all those other emails just eventually made it tip. So they were going to let it slide. I think at least that's what it sounded like. That's what it seemed like.
Well, he got to coach
and then all of a sudden
on Sunday.
Yeah, he coached. Yeah, he coached
even
the game
through
on Sunday,
all even through all I think the initial reports of like the earlier emails, but
yeah. So I think that first email wasn't enough to justify firing him, but with all of the evidence that came through.
How does the NFL now handle investigating their employees at this point? Do they go into a widespread investigation of pretty much doing background checks and character checks on every single employee if it's warranted and if it's demanded by the NFL public and their fans?
Well, I think what you do is you have to take a look at everybody who was in the emails with Jon, and you start there and see if anybody else partook in that. But I think I don't know how they go about searching for all the other people who are probably involved with this, because there are going to be people who also share the same beliefs as Jon. But I think what the NFL has done is they've set a precedent and they've put their foot down. And what the NFL has done now is, because they fired Jon for this, what this means is that if somebody like an Andy Reid or a Pete Carroll
or somebody like a Mike Tomlin who's so beloved,
or Mike Tomlin, yeah. So somebody else, if somebody else does something similar to Gruden, then what the NFL is going to be forced to do is fire them. Because if they don't, then everybody's going to look at the Jon Gruden thing and say, okay, there was something else going on and you got rid of him and you're not getting rid of him. So what kind of double standard are you playing with? So what the NFL has done is said, this is how we're going to treat this incident. You cross this, you're fired. And if they do anything less than that, then they're in some serious trouble.
Mm-hmm. And does this bring into question? And I don't want to be like an almost ageist, almost like picking on older coaches, but I think it's natural to think that they would hold different beliefs. They're used to a different set of beliefs than younger.
They grew up in a different time.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, right.
So it would be smart on the NFL just to go to a Pete Carroll, go to a Bill Belichick, go to an Andy Reid and be like,
but you can't. Like that's just that. Like I understand what you're saying, but what justification do you have for doing that? Because if you're Pete Carroll
acting proactively, because the NFL would.
But I mean, so one side, yes, you can look at it as acting proactively. But if you're Pete Carroll, what do you look at that maybe as? Oh, so now you're assuming that I did. Yeah, now you're just making stuff because Jon did this. That means automatically now you're going to start something with Pete Carroll and all the other coaches in that sense. So you can't just walk up to somebody and go, "Well, we got a hunch."
But but the NFL in their league offices, I don't think. They had to have had an inkling of what Jon had been saying before they got a hold of the emails. They had to have known Jon's feelings about them at least. And was it Demario Smith?
Demaurice. I think is
Demar-
I've heard it pronounced it. It's
Demaurice.
Demaurice. I've heard it Demaurice.
I heard
Demaurice.
it. I heard
both
it differently.
ways.
I think it's like I
Yeah.
just couldn't hear it when you said it the first time. I'm just an awful person. It's fine.
Well, I've heard it both ways. I've heard Demaurice, Demaurice. I think it's Demaurice. That's how I pronounce it. But either way, I don't know what the NFL does to be proactive against this. I think the only thing that you could do is look at the email link that John has and all the other emails that are in there. And
Look at the CCs.
There's your starting point. So if you want to go look at them, you have justification to look at them because like, oh, so you were in these emails with John. We're just going to do our due diligence to make sure that you weren't saying any of the other stuff.
Who's New England Big Daddy 6 rings at gmail.com? Who do we think that is?
Right. Just going after Bill Belichick. But
the mashed hood assassin.
Right.
The hoodie assassin 11 at gmail.com.
Carmelo Anthony. For anybody who didn't get that joke, the hoodie Mellow thing. So, but
hoodie
yeah.
Mellow?
So I mean,
who doesn't know about hoodie Mellow?
Hoodie Mellow was dominant. So yeah, I mean, to sort of wrap up the conversation, I mean, it's one of those. It's a black eye for the NFL. It really is, and good for them for acting swiftly on it.
So did the NFL, because John resigned.
John did resign.
So technically they didn't do anything. They may have forced him to resign.
Yeah.
And I honestly think it's more the Raiders.
It's probably
I don't think it's the NFL specifically acting. I think it's Mark Davis being like, hey John, like either we're firing you or you can go out with a shred of respect.
Right.
That's what it is. I don't think it's the NFL being like,
and
hey.
Jon Gruden meant so much to the Raiders franchise. So I think it probably was one of those things where it's like, dude, just, resign instead of us handling this.
Imagine if the Raiders were 4-1.
Yeah.
And it looked like they finally finished this rebuild or this turnaround, and John was now back to what he was in the first run that he had with the Raiders. And now the Raiders are just screwed for the rest of the year.
Well, we'll see. I heard a rumor that Mike Zimmer might be the Raiders' new head coach.
Former Minnesota.
Minnesota, yeah. He's on the hot seat in Minnesota.
He's
right now the Raiders assistant coach who is, I think he was the special teams coordinator, is filling in as an interim head coach. Can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Why don't you just get Jack Del Rio back?
Maybe. But yeah, so we'll see where the Raiders move forward from this.
Just to get a Jay Gruden.
Jay Gruden.
He was actually on the email link, I think.
He was the hooded assassin.
I think he was actually in that group chat too, if I remember reading the New York Times.
Probably.
But everyone, because I always forget that there's theoretically an audience watching this. I would do your own research. Like Jason and I have our own interpretations and our own sort of findings and beliefs about the thing. It's not fact or fiction. Everyone that's listening or watching this should go and find the information themselves to then come to their own conclusions. Because if you just listen to us, I mean, heck, you can look at the percentages in our top right corners and top left corner. Like we're wrong some of the times, and especially with things like this that aren't cut and dry and totally about beliefs. I mean, it's a nice discussion to have. And if you want to be a part of it, I think the only way is to find all the information. And I honestly am intrigued to find out more about what happens when things come out.
Yeah.
Oh, it has to. I mean, for John's sake, if you're John and his family, you don't want anything else coming out, but dang, it's gonna, in a couple of years, maybe we'll have hard copies of all these emails and what was said. And yeah.
I don't know if there's a real way to transition from something to that into power rankings. So we're just going to put a cap on that conversation. We're going to move on. We're going to shift the tone of the show back to a more upbeat, kind of fun show, which we love to be. We do have to be serious every once in a while, especially about stuff like that. So we're going to move into power rankings. Once again, ESPN is dropping the stupidest power rankings. Look, I'm sorry. I do not understand these at all. And Sam doesn't either. It is ridiculous. So by the way, breaking news. Buccaneers removed their former Super Bowl winning head coach from their Ring of Honor. There you go. So as reported by Adam Schefter about an hour ago. So there you go. We're going to
Jon Gruden's not going to be in the Hall of Fame. If he's not already in the Hall of Fame, right?
No. So like I said, we're going to shift tones. And the thing that I want to say before we read our power rankings and talk about ESPN is I'm convinced they're not watching these games because this is ridiculous. So
there's a couple things. I mean, ESPN's list is going to be hopefully right next to us right now, so you guys can take a look at it. But Jason's going to read it for the audio listeners now, because don't worry, we didn't forget about you guys.
Yeah, podcast people, if you're still listening, I'll read it for you really quickly. Number 10, they have the Chiefs. Number 9, they have the Browns. The Ravens are at 8. The Chargers are at 7. The Cowboys are at 6. The Packers are at 5. Bucks are 4. Rams are 3rd. The Cardinals are 2nd, and the Bills are 1st. So our power rankings in comparison to them, they do differ. We had ESPN's power rankings up, and now our power rankings are about to show up as well. Hopefully they're there right now. Sam, you can read our power rankings because quite frankly, ours is just flat out better.
Yeah, so they're going to be right to the left of me, I think.
They're in the middle of us.
I always get it confused which way it is. So number 10, we have the Cincinnati Bengals giving them some love because they deserve it after that crazy game against Green Bay. Next, we have the Browns. For some reason, after a loss, they stay in. 8, we have Baltimore. Maybe a little controversial there. 7, we have Tampa Bay. 6, we have Green Bay. The 2 Bays represented nicely in our power rankings. And then the top 5, these are honestly the teams that really deserve it. I think that have stood out big time, just purely from the first 5 games this year. Number 5, we have Dallas. Yep. 4, we have the Rams. 3, we have the Bills at number 3. That might be a big talking point. 2, I guess we're the only team that likes the Chargers after what they've done. All they do is beat really good teams and have played great this year. And then number 1, we said we weren't going to reward teams purely off of records, but Arizona's played. They haven't given us any reason to not be up here at number 1.
So the list, I'll give you guys a little behind the scenes look. The list is Sam and I coming together and making the list. We don't always, we differ on some of the, we have to find a middle ground for what we think is right and what we think is wrong. So this is our sort of middle ground. Looking at ESPN's list, the biggest gripe that I have is what the hell are the Chargers doing at 7? You're putting them below the Cowboys, the Packers, the Bucks, the Rams. So there's no way. There's no way.
The team Packers better than the Chargers. Chargers have beaten. They barely lost to the Cowboys. I guess that's why ESPN put the Cowboys ahead of them, because they won the head-to-head in a fluky game where the Chargers had 2 touchdowns called back on them. Chargers have beaten the Chiefs, the Browns, who are in both of our top 10s. They beat the number 10. They beat the number 9 and the number 10 team on their own ESPN rankings. Mm-hmm. And they've beaten. They beat the Raiders, and they've beaten Washington. They beat an undefeated Raiders team. Mm-hmm. Like, it just doesn't. And the Cowboys have beaten Philly, Giants. They had the Bucks. They had an impressive loss against the Bucks, and then they beat
They beat Philly, they beat the Panthers, and they beat the Giants.
Panthers.
Yeah.
This
Look,
doesn't.
the Chargers have a more impressive resume. They do. They flat out do. When you go toe to toe with
Oh,
the
and
Browns,
they beat the Chargers. We didn't include that. The Cowboys beat the
they
Chargers.
did. Yeah, they beat the Chargers. We included it on the other one. We said that the Chargers
it doesn't matter.
But the Chargers, when you go toe to toe like that with the Browns, you go on the road to, at the time, an undefeated Raiders team, and you shut them out. Then you go, and after that, listen, they had played. Now, here's the thing. With the Chargers and the Chiefs game as well, that game was in Arrowhead. That was in Arrowhead. They go in there and they go toe to toe with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. They beat the Chiefs. Then they come back at home against the Raiders, which I said on the road on purpose, even though it was at home, that was a home game for the Raiders. Don't let anybody fool you. I think over like 70% of the ticket sales were to Raider fans. That was a home game for the Raiders through and through. They win that game, and then they beat the Browns in what was the best game of the week, and it was an amazing game.
Best game of the year.
Oh, yeah. I have actually some ridiculous stats about that game because it was absolutely ridiculous. So the Browns and the Chargers, the Browns and the Chargers combined for 89 points, 1,025 total yards, 52 first downs, and 12 touchdowns. It was a great game. As a matter of fact, entering Sunday afternoon, this is from CBS, NFL teams were 401-0. They were undefeated in the Super Bowl era when scoring 40 points in the game without committing a turnover. The Browns are the first team to lose when they scored 40 points without committing a turnover. The Browns played a perfect game. They played a perfect game.
And I think it was 39 combined points scored in the fourth quarter. What more do you want from a game?
Yeah, it was 15 points by the Browns and 26 points by the Chargers. 26 points in the fourth quarter. So the Chargers being at 7 is a little bit ridiculous. I have a bit of a gripe with the Chiefs being at 10. I understand that there is maybe a reluctance from some people to kind of bag on the Chiefs because the Chiefs have been this like super team for a while, but they're bad. They're bad right now. They really are. Like, their offense is fine, but their defense is just terrible. The most damning stat that I heard about them this week is, and this was coming from ESPN. This made me laugh because it really does paint a picture for how bad their defense is. The greatest offense of all time, which people point to as like the 2000 Rams, like the greatest show, right?
07 Patriots.
Yeah, but
that sort of thing.
But yeah, so the most points ever, the most yards per play ever put on by a team for an offense was 7 yards per play. The Chiefs have been giving up 7.2 yards per play. So everybody that they play, they're making the greatest offense of all time. That was the stat that I heard this week, and it just painted a picture for me. The Chiefs being at 10 is honestly, you're sliding other teams by putting the Chiefs there. You're giving them the benefit of the doubt. You're not actually taking into account what you've seen.
I'm actually not. I don't think they deserve to be a top 10. Do I think they'll still find a way to make the playoffs? I think so. I think they still find a way to make the playoffs. And I think ESPN is sort of a projection list.
Right. But that's not what that's not what you and I think power rankings.
I totally get it. And the Chiefs also, I think they're tied for first in turnovers with Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
As an offense. So offense isn't clicking well. Defense is historically bad.
Yeah.
And yet they're only 2-3.
Yep.
With tight losses against the Ravens and the Chargers, if they clean up, it's just crazy, like how talented that team is and how much potential it has, that there's always that big if. If they were to right the ship, that team is still potent. If they're able to limit the turnovers, that team can still win games, which is so crazy, such a testament to how good that offense is and how good Patrick Mahomes is. But right now, through 5 weeks, they have not looked like a top 10 team. There's just no way.
So last week, I put up a poll on my Instagram account. and I'll put a link to that somewhere down here on the bottom. If you guys want to go vote, I put up a poll
Wow,
on
you're
my
linking
Instagram account.
your own Instagram account now, huh?
Well, it's pretty much ours because I advertise the show there. So I put up a poll for people to vote on our rankings, and 68% of the people that voted liked our list last week more than ESPN's. So thank you, public, for agreeing with the better list.
That should be
Again,
higher. That should be higher this week.
it should be. And the thing that I could see people having a gripe with our list about might be the Bills at 3, because I think a lot of people are looking at the Bills as the best team in the league. If you were to present that argument to me, I don't think I would give you a hard pushback on that. The Bills I think we can look at the Bills' first week loss as maybe a fluke. It just looks like a really bad loss. But since then, they've been absolutely dominant. I think their defense has actually looked slightly, maybe a little more dominant than Arizona. However, the one thing Arizona does have going for them, one, they are undefeated, but the team who everybody was proclaiming week 3, week 4, the Super Bowl favorites, the Rams, they obliterated the Rams. And you look at the Bills with their statement win, they obliterated the Chiefs as well. So they both have statement wins. The Cardinals are still undefeated, and they've been playing really good football. I know the game last week against the 49ers was a little bit weird. I thought they were going to win that game by a little bit more. But I think you have to give credit where credit is due.
The Niners have a great defense.
They do have a great defense, but Arizona has a great offense.
I will say this though,
really well.
Well, Kyler, so did you watch the game?
I watched actually quite a bit of it.
So Kyler hurt his bicep in the game, and it was clearly apparent that it was hindering his ability to throw down the field and really throw accurate balls. I think the Niners did such a good job. I think that's the best they've ever played Kyler Murray in that Arizona offense. But it's something to say good teams find a way, even when things aren't going right, to beat teams they should beat. And no doubt the Cardinals should have beaten that Niners team. If Jimmy G was starting, maybe that could have been a little different. But with a rookie quarterback starting and a team that was struggling on offense, Arizona was the better team by far, and they proved it, even without their A-plus stuff.
Well, I tell you what, the game of the week next week, or I should say this week, is going to be Cardinals at Browns. So they're going to have another tough test with another good defense.
Man, the poor Browns opened up with the Chiefs, and then they have to play Chargers and Arizona.
Yeah, and the Vikings game was not an easy game. The Vikings have a good defense. And they have the Chargers. They had to take care of the Chiefs, and
and they still have 2 against Baltimore. They still have 2 against Cincinnati, who we haven't even given any love to, who might be a little better than we all thought.
One of our good friends, Tech, is a Bengals fan, and he texted me when we put up our list last week, and he asked about why the Bengals weren't in there, and he said it kind of jokingly, but I knew he was serious because I was sitting there and I was going, I was thinking, like, we thought about it, we really did, and it was one of those things where we had to look at the Bengals and go, well, kind of what have they done for me recently, kind of thing, with who they've played. So the fact that they were playing the Green Bay Packers, and throughout most of that game, they were in legitimate control of that game. They were outplaying the Packers. And it was one of those things where they kind of got Rodgers. I mean, that's the best way I can put it. Aaron Rodgers is a bit unreal, but you have to give credit where credit is due. I mean, Jacksonville this season has
Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the teams that they've played, but you look at how many points that they've given up. It was 24 against the Vikings, right? It was 20 against the Bears, 10 against the Steelers, 21 against Jacksonville, and 25 against the Packers. They haven't been giving up a lot of points. They've kind of been middle of the pack with their defense, but their offense has been really productive. That Jamar Chase draft pick looks like it's going to be a great. One of the analysts during that game was like, we're watching Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. well, maybe we have the second coming with Joe
No,
Burrow
dude.
and Jamar Chase.
Dude,
And
imagine.
I agree
So
with that.
their connection, I think, was almost understated in the draft of how like these two are best friends and their connection at LSU. Because if this thing gets bigger and they get a couple of years under their belts to where they're just reading defenses and picking them apart, Jamar Chase looks like the real effing deal.
Yeah.
And Joe Burrow, if it wasn't for Justin Herbert, we'd be talking about Joe Burrow as the next best thing as a young QB.
Like, did you see the hit that he took that game?
Do you see the hits he takes every game?
Yeah.
With a bad knee and he's still balling?
Yeah.
Like
Joe Burrow is legit.
Nuts. If they do not get a left tackle or any offensive lineman in the first round of the next draft, I don't know what they're doing.
You should leave.
Because that is the last thing they need.
Yeah. Just you have got to give the Bengals credit for what they've been doing. They've been playing well. And I think the reason why it was kind of easy to put them in there is you look through the rest of the league. I mean, the teams who you might consider putting in at 10. Do you think that they're better than the Titans? Well, I think they've played more consistently than the Titans, right? What about the Broncos and the Raiders? Probably not. The Raiders have fallen out of our top 10. The Broncos really beat 3 teams that weren't very good. What about the Patriots? No, not the Patriots. Anybody else from Seattle? No. Well, they just lost their quarterback. The Niners are still 2-3. The Bears and the Vikings? Probably not. And the Panthers and the Saints? No. So Cincinnati seemed like the right choice to put right there. And they've just visually, they've looked the best and they've played really, really well. Think about it. They're 6 points away from being 5-0. They lost on a field goal in a game that they should have won against the Packers. They had every opportunity to win that game with all those field goals. So if one of those goes in, they're 4-1, and then they lose by 3 to the Bears. They're 6 points away from being 5-0. They've been playing really well. They're a good team. They really are, and they deserve to be in the top 10.
I think you have to reward a team that is overachieving like Cincinnati instead of rewarding a team that's underachieving like Tennessee. Tennessee, sure, they've shown glimpses of what we know them as, but they haven't earned a spot in the illustrious nothing to say power rankings.
Right.
There's just no way with that play.
And when you're looking at Tennessee, I think you said it perfectly with the underachieving versus overachieving. I think Tennessee may be at their best. Who knows who wins against Tennessee and
they're
Cincinnati?
better. No, they're better.
You think Tennessee's better?
Yeah, I think you can say that.
Well, even so, Tennessee's best and their worst have both been on display this season. Cincinnati has been pretty much up here the entire time. Even though they had the same record, their 2 losses have been really close. So they've just been more consistent than Tennessee. They've actually been one of the most consistent teams in the NFL when you look at it. They've won 3 games. They lost on a field goal against Green Bay in a game they should have won. And then that Bears one, they came back and they had an opportunity to win that game, and they just couldn't get that last stop on defense. They have been extremely consistent from the start of the season. So congrats, Cincinnati, and all the Bengals fans. Your team is moving up.
So do we got to go back to, I don't even think we talked about the Bills being at 3.
Well, I think the thing that I'll say about that is I think the Cardinals, the Chargers, and the Bills, they all have an argument for 1, 2, 3. Legitimately, you could go 1A, 1B, and 1C.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Bills I think that's the bandwagon pick. Because they're playing but who are they playing? I think we now know that the Chiefs aren't very good, especially on defense. They're not very good. And I know
against the Chiefs.
that may not be fair to say in hindsight, but it's just the reality of what's happening. They've beaten Miami, who's really bad. They beat, who is it, Houston? They blew out
Houston and beat Washington.
I mean, that's a pretty good win. Washington's definitely not what you thought they were. I mean, I said that Dallas was going to win the division. I think that was one of the best choices that I have made in a while. Predictions, I mean. But That's still, I mean, that's a pretty good win. And then this Chiefs win, but the Chiefs we've established aren't very good.
But
Yes,
I
the
think,
way that they're doing it is impressive. Like these are NFL
yeah,
teams and they are beating the brakes off of them every single week. Yes, that's impressive. But this is the same as if we're going to look at it like college football, you got to look at the strength of schedule, man. If you lose a game early and then you're beating bad teams by a lot, yes, that's impressive, but we're not going to reward that as much as a Chargers team who have beaten good teams and barely lost to a really good team. I think that's a more impressive resume to put them higher than the Bills. And then the Cardinals have no blemishes on their resume. You can kind of say that Minnesota game was a little bit of a blemish because they should have lost, but they didn't. They still got that 0 in that loss column. And they have that uber impressive domination of the LA Rams, who are in the top 5 of everyone's list.
yeah. I'll tell you what, and the Bills have it nice, at least for them coming up these next 4 weeks. They play the Titans, which could be a bit of a tough game. Stopping Derrick Henry is always interesting to see what teams have game planned for that. But then they have the Dolphins, the Jaguars, and the Jets. They have 3 games that they should win by like 90 points. And then they have the Titans game, which they should win. They get the Colts at home, okay, which is going to be a tough game, but they should win that game. Then they play the Saints, the Patriots. They have a challenge game in Tampa against the Bucks.
Whew, that's a great game.
Yeah, but then they finish the season with the Panthers, the Patriots, the Falcons, and the Jets.
Their division is the worst in the NFL, I think. No. The AFC South.
Yeah.
is the worst division in the NFL. Yeah. That's on me. Yeah, that's on me.
I see no reason why the Bills are not going to be the number 1 seed heading into the playoffs.
I
think by like 2 games.
They're not going to lose in their division.
They shouldn't.
There's no way. I mean, isn't Tua out the whole year?
He's going to be out for a while. I don't know what the timetable is, but with the Bills are going to run away with that division, and they're going to run away, I think, with the AFC as well. The only people who they might have to worry about is the Chargers. I know the Ravens are playing really well. The Chargers might have something to say about that division title. Who knows? Maybe the Chiefs bounce back. Maybe they get it figured out. I don't know. You can't count them out, but the Bills.
Yeah, the Ravens are tough because I see them splitting with the Browns somehow. And they could falter. They could falter at Pittsburgh, Oregon. Since that's a tough division from top to bottom.
You know what? You know who their next game is against?
The Ravens.
The Chargers.
Oh, in week 7.
No, it's next week. I mean, it's this Sunday.
Ravens Chargers.
Chargers at Baltimore.
Woo!
So there you go. And then the Chargers have to play the Patriots after that. And then they have a stretch against the Eagles, the Vikings, the Steelers, the Broncos, the Bengals, the Giants. So Chargers might have something to say about it. But regardless, to put a cap on this power rankings thing, we have the better power rankings. We have 2 weeks in a row. Hopefully you guys agree with that. Leave a comment if you want.
7.
Number
7 for the Chargers.
Number 7. And also putting Tampa that high at 4, I feel was a little bit questionable. I understand the want to do it, but Tampa all the way up at 4.
With all their you have an easy cop out with Tampa. They are on their 4th string DBs. And that's the 4th best team in the NFL?
Yeah, that's not worthy of being there, but whatever. We all know that our show is home to the better power rankings. It is also home to the best segments on YouTube, which we're going to move to right now with Move the Chains. Now, saying. The last time we did this, you were in charge of it. I'm now in charge of it. I got some questions for you. For those of you who don't know what Move the Chains is, I'm going to say a definitive statement. You have no idea whether or not I believed it or not, but I'm going to say a definitive statement. And Sam is going, hey, with some of these, I don't know what it is.
I don't even know if that was in
opinion.
the spirit of.
But I want your opinion on it. Whether or not I believe it or not to be true is a whole other thing. But I'm going to say a definitive statement, and you're going to tell me whether or not you're going to move the chains on that one, which is agree, or he's going to punt, which he's not. So here we go. Question number 1. I want to tell you that right now, Lamar Jackson is 5th in passing. He is 8th in rushing yards. He has 1,860 yards total this season, which is more than 18 NFL teams. I think Sunday morning, Tom Brady made a case for being the MVP of the league with a 400-yard, 5-touchdown game Sunday morning. Justin Herbert then in the afternoon came back and threw the big punch against Cleveland. But then Sunday night, Josh Allen came and threw another punch in that with his dominating performance over the Chiefs. But Monday morning, Lamar Jackson woke up and he chose violence because heading into week 6, Lamar Jackson is the definitive MVP of the season through week 5, heading into week 6. Move the chains or punt.
No, I think you punt it. There's no way.
Oh, really? Oh, that one I do. That one I actually believe.
Cop out answer. There's no way he's definitive. There's so many players that have a case. I think Tom's in the conversation. I don't think he's going to win it. Herbert, what he's doing, we love the Chargers. I think we're a Chargers show. You might as well take that Raiders hat off. We are a Chargers show.
We are.
What he's doing, and you didn't even mention Kyler Murray, who's probably the actual front runner.
I didn't mention. Well, I was more talking about what had happened on Sunday but.
And I think Josh Allen might be there in the end. I don't think he's there right now. What Lamar is doing is absolutely nuts because he is finally proving there's no way you can say that Lamar Jackson can't throw a football. There's just no way.
Passer.
Like he is proving he's a jump passer for all I care, but he is 5th in throwing yards.
Mm-hmm.
That is great. Lamar Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is nuts. It might be a case of when Russell Westbrook averaged a triple-double. Like, it is just the numbers. You cannot deny what he is doing. And if Baltimore somehow gets a top 2 seed, maybe you give it to him. But if Arizona continues to do what they're doing and Kyler is obviously going to put up the stats and continue to put up stats because his fingerprints are all over that offense. Justin Herbert, if he continues to be perfect, I don't even think I've seen Justin Herbert have a bad game in his NFL career. If he continues to do that and the Chargers look like they're the best in the AFC, best team in the league, he deserves it. I mean, there are so many guys that have a claim. I don't think you can say. I don't even think I'd put Lamar as the front runner right now.
I'm putting Lamar as the front runner right now, and the reason why is because I don't think any player right now means more to their team than he does. He is being asked to do literally everything. Their run game is completely decimated. He is.
But that's no different than years past.
No, I don't care. You're wrong. I'm sorry. And I don't want to hear any more arguments. We're moving on. Also, I just want to say that Lamar Jackson had 442 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, had a rating of 140.5, and had a completion percentage of 86% the other night against the Colts. So that was ridiculous.
What he did. And their supposedly good defense.
All right. All right. So here we go. Next question. The Chiefs are 2-3 heading into their week 6 matchup versus Washington. Mm-hmm. Are we seriously living in a world where the Chiefs might miss the playoffs? Are they in danger of missing the playoffs?
The way you phrase that question, I have to move the chains.
Right.
Because obviously they're in danger. If there's a lot of really quality teams in the AFC, I mean, we could live in a world where Cincinnati makes the playoffs over the Chiefs. We could legitimately live in that world. I think they find a way. Like I said earlier, I mean, there's just so much quality in that offense. If it is literally coming down to, yes, their defense is bad and they can accept that, but as long as they stop turning the ball over, they can win games with anyone. And luckily, they don't have to play the Bills again. And that's probably the one team that I'd be scared if I were a Chiefs fan to play. I think they can hang with the Chargers, even with how well the Chargers are playing. They can hang with any team left in the AFC. They don't have to play Baltimore again. Like their schedule, they don't have to play Cleveland again. Like their schedule sets up to where they can make a run and still make the playoffs.
Yeah, here's the thing though. The notable games left on their schedule. They have to play the Packers. Okay. They play the Cowboys. They also have to play the Chargers again. They have to play Cincy for what we're talking about. And then they also have the rest of their division games as well. So they have some tough games. But luckily they get the Packers in Arrowhead. They get the Cowboys in Arrowhead.
That's big.
Their next game against the Chargers is on the road, and they have to play Cincy on the road. But there are two big teams that they have to play. They actually do get at home. So that'll help them as well. I'm glad you mentioned Cincy because that was my next question. The Bengals are 3-2 and 6 points away from, like I said, being 5-0. The Bengals will be in the playoffs as a wild card this year. Move the chains or punt.
Is there a way that I could hear what notable games they have left? Obviously, they play the Chiefs, they play Baltimore twice, they play Cleveland twice, and they play Pittsburgh one more time.
I can pull up their schedule for you right now. So the rest of their games, notable teams they play against. So next week they have the Lions. They also have the Jets. So those are some two easy games that they might have. So they do have to play the Ravens.
Can I ask you this? Is Detroit not the best 0-5 team in NFL history?
It's crazy. And I'll tell you what, did you see the post-game press conference with Dan Campbell?
What a mix of emotions.
How do you not want to play for that guy?
Did you see him on the sideline?
Yeah. Yeah.
When he hugged Jared Goff after Jared Goff is playing his heart out for this team. I'm telling
you. And you know what? Good for Dan Campbell for choosing to go for that 2-point conversion and say, you know what? We are 0-4. Let's go win this damn football game. And they go out and they did it until they didn't. And it's horrible. But I tell you what, that post-game press conference, if you are a former player and you watch that, how do you not want to go play for Dan Campbell? I wanted to put on a uniform and go play for him. It was like, dude, he cares so much about his team and about Detroit. I know that they're 0-5, but man, if you're somebody in that organization, you got to think that you have the right guy for the job.
And everyone on the outside can see, no one would claim that they are not trying hard for him.
No.
As in,
they're playing.
Compare Jacksonville and Detroit. That's a completely different 0-5 situations.
Oh, yeah.
The mood in Detroit is a lot better. And who thought we would say that when one team has Trevor Lawrence in their locker room? The mood's a lot better in Detroit than it is in Jacksonville. But back to your question, Cincinnati playoff team?
I got you. They're notable games for the rest of the season. So you're right. They do have to play, obviously, the Browns, and they do have to play the Ravens. Again, they have to play them twice. So that's going to be tough for them. But other notable games, they play the Raiders. Who knows what that's going to be? But they have to play the Chargers. They have to play the Chargers. They have to play the 49ers.
Oh, that's
They also have to play the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So they play the entire AFC West. But they also have to play the 49ers, and they also have to play the Ravens. So that's a tough schedule. That is a tough schedule.
I think they match up really well against the Niners, except that they have a weak offensive line and the Niners defensive line is playing super well. But who knows what the Niners offense looks like at that point. It just scares me about the skill positions that Cincinnati might have a top 5 wide receiver core and skill positions in the NFL. And the Niners DBs they played well on Sunday, but they're still not the notable names. I mean, we're down to third string, second string guys playing big snap counts.
if you're, and I'll try to help you out with this. So if we're going to say division winners are going to be the Bills, the Chargers, the Ravens, and the Titans. So now you're talking about 3 wild card spots. Your wild card teams will probably end up being the Chiefs, right? You have the Browns. Okay. So now you're looking at that last spot. So for that, what you're looking at is Cincinnati. You're looking at maybe the Broncos and then the Patriots. So like that's what I'm saying. That seventh spot. I know that their schedule is not favorable, but you're looking at the AFC South, they're decimated. I don't think the Steelers are going to make any sort of rallying cry comeback. The AFC West, I don't know. Who's to say? Yeah, who's to say? Maybe the Raiders rebound and they still play. Who knows?
I don't see it. I don't see the Raiders doing that quick of a turnaround.
But yeah, so that's what I'm saying. That 7th spot, that'll be up for grabs for Cincy. They got a tough road.
I don't see them winning more than 6 games out of that schedule.
Maybe that's all they need, though.
You think 9 and 8 gets in?
Maybe.
Oh, the AFC think about sucks.
The think about the teams that we just listed. I don't know, but you got to pick.
I think I'm going to move the chains on that one.
They are going to be in. So there you go, Cincinnati. Hey, and you know what? I'm all here for it. Go Cincinnati.
Cleveland Seriously. And Cincinnati are in the playoffs.
Can you imagine?
In the same year.
And Baltimore.
What is that? What is that? And the Buffalo Bills are favorites.
Right. Crazy year.
Are we in a topsy-turvy?
Crazy year. Speaking of Cleveland, I have to ask you, Baker Mayfield had a chance to drive the Browns down against the Chargers and win the game last week. Couldn't do it. Looking ahead, do you think Mayfield is going to be QB1 for Cleveland moving forward? Move the chains or punt?
This year?
No, so we're talking about next. So they are committed through the next year. But do you think they're going to give him a contract extension?
I think they do. I think you got to move the chains on that one. This is a number 1 pick. I know they didn't draft him. This wasn't the staff that drafted him, but he still is a number 1 pick. I think he's good enough to win in the NFL for sure. Does he leave a lot to be desired? Yeah, but he did put up 42 points in that game. I mean, it's not like scoring was the problem. Their team is so focused on running the football. It sort of diminishes the impact that the quarterback position has, negative or positive. So I feel like they can get away. The money has to be right. He's not going to be getting Dak Prescott number money. He's not getting Russell Wilson money. He's not getting Mahomes money. He's not getting, I even think right now Sam Darnold deserves more money than Baker Mayfield right now. Yeah. Which is really weird to say. But
I think he's playing a little bit better, at least this season. Baker had a great year last year, but
he had a great finish last year. So I think if you figure out the Odell situation and you get Jarvis back healthy, who knows? Baker, I think I could see Baker going on a little bit of a 6-game run to end the year and they make the playoffs. And I think you give him a contract. I think you got to move the chains on that one.
I agree. I think the reason why I brought this up because there was a lot of conversation on a lot of ESPN shows this week about Baker Mayfield. Is he worth it? Is he not? And there were a lot of people who were saying no. And like when you look at the quarterbacks in the league, I feel like there are a lot of quarterbacks who, if you swapped Cleveland, they would be better. But again, like Sam said, the Browns run the ball so much. So it's one of those things where Baker doesn't necessarily have to be the best quarterback in the league. What he needs to do is be able to make timely plays. He couldn't do it against the Chargers. Last year he did, though, and right now he also is playing through an injury right now.
So
his left shoulder.
I don't think that's fair to judge him based off of this Chargers game. I mean, he put up 15 points in the 4th quarter. Is it his fault that the Chargers went possessed on Cleveland's defense and scored every time down? I don't think that's his fault.
Right.
Like, it's so unfair to be like, oh, I expect our offense and our quarterback to produce 49 points to get a win. I don't think you're looking at the offense. Yes, you could pick out plays and be like, oh, he definitely could have performed better on this play, could have operated a little bit better under pressure, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, they put up 42 points.
Right.
They didn't turn the ball over. I think they punted once?
Something like that.
On the day. I don't think their offense was, and he's injured a little bit.
He is injured. They punted three times. They both teams punted 3 times. So it washed. So I was just giving you the stat you said, so I was trying to.
No, I know.
Ironically, and funny thing, they both punted 3 times. They both ran exactly 68 plays too.
So how'd the Chargers win?
I don't know. I don't know. The Chargers had less yards. They had less rushing yards. They had less yards per play. They ran the same amount of plays. They actually allowed more sacks. And the Chargers lost a fumble. And their time of possession, they had the ball for 13 minutes less than the Browns. I don't know how the Chargers won that game. They only had the ball for 23 minutes of the game, and they scored 47 points.
Didn't they? But that doesn't those two Mike Williams, weren't they both like 70+ touchdowns?
Well, Mike Williams, a beast. Just have to say thank you in fantasy.
Gosh, he scared the living crap. Like behind the scenes, Jason was texting me. He was like, oh, because we played each other in fantasy this week. GG's, like, you did it, like, good win. And then in the background, Mike Williams is quietly putting up 36 points. And I'm only up by, like, I think Jason was ahead at one point while I had players playing. And I was like, am I really going to lose when I have, like, 2 players playing and he has no one?
So I would have won the game. I would have beaten Sam had I had played Antonio Brown, because Antonio Brown, the 1 week I don't play him, decides to go for 31 points. So that was just but I've since moved on. And we're gonna move on to this segment too.
Moved on.
So we're gonna move on to picks real quick. I have one more move to change question for you, but I'm going to put it all the way at the end of our picks because it has nothing to do with football. So we're going to do our picks real quick. I won last week finally, so we're back in the win column. It is 3-2, or no, wait, 3-2.
You just butchered that.
Whichever
suck.
One. Yeah, whatever.
Hey,
anyway,
it's 3-2.
I'm just excited. I'm excited that I finally am back in the win column. Our percentages are up there. I don't know what our percentage was this week or what it is.
I think you're at 60. You're at like 62. I think off the top of my head, I'm at 66.
Wow, so I jumped.
You're close. I think I measured it really poorly because you obviously shouldn't have jumped that much because you only beat me by 1 game.
Right. I was at like 56, so I shouldn't have jumped to 62. But so you're going to have to recalculate the math.
I'll figure that out.
Anyway, so let's move to the Thursday night game, which is tonight, the night of this release. We got the Buccaneers versus the Eagles. I think we're both taking the Bucs. Yes?
Yeah. Yeah, got to take
All
the
right,
Bucs.
So who you got against the Dolphins and the Jaguars? Jaguars at home. Are they going to get their first win?
Let's see what happens. Jacoby Brissett still starting?
Yeah.
They didn't look good against Tampa Bay. I think we didn't even get into the Urban Meyer stuff, but I think with that cloud over this team, I think you have to take Miami.
I agree. I take Miami on the road against Jacksonville. You got the Vikings and the Panthers. Panthers are at home.
I've taken the Vikings.
Carolina opens as a 1.5 point favorite at home,
Really?
which tells you it's not that. I mean, it's very close. There's no real difference in the money line.
Good thing we don't bet.
Yeah, it's tough.
We would have lost some money this year.
we would have lost some money. So the Vikings, it's tough. The Vikings are so weird to project, but this is one of those games where I don't have any like real lean one way or another. And I'm too scared to pick the Panthers, so I'll take the Vikings as well. Then we have the Ravens and the Chargers. Chargers on the road against the Ravens. This is the early game.
I might flip that Minnesota-Carolina game if we need it.
Okay. I feel more comfortable picking the Vikings. So if you feel like flipping, that's fine. I will stick with the Vikings. I actually feel better about that. But all right, so we got the Chargers and the Ravens. Ravens are at home. Wow.
I'm gonna take the Chargers.
Okay. Yeah, I am too. We've just been absolutely putting praise on the Chargers all this time. So I have no reason to believe why they couldn't beat the Ravens.
We're a Chargers show.
We are a Chargers show, it seems like. So, all right, give me Herbert over Lamar. That's going to be an amazing game.
That's a big That's a big MVP statement game, though.
For both of them, yeah.
If one of them sort of, I mean, theoretically outplays the other one, I know they're not playing head to head, but
I wouldn't put it past Lamar to find a way to beat the Chargers. After what he's been doing, I wouldn't say it's completely out of the question, but I think the Chargers are overall the better team.
So I think what Herbert is doing somehow is a little more sustainable than what Lamar is doing.
Well, just because I think Lamar is being asked to do everything. He's probably going to be playing cornerback here in a few weeks.
You say quarterback?
Yeah. So what do we got? The Rams over the Giants, yes?
And now Lamar Jackson's coming in at nose tackle for the Baltimore Ravens.
He's long snapping it to himself? Oh, man.
Lamar Jackson coming in.
Sam actually did have a practice where the coaches thought he could long snap. He was not very good at it. So
okay, that was not fair. I didn't know how to long snap. They just gave me a ball. We were like warming up, and they're like gave me a ball and didn't even tell me what to do.
Bro, it's not easy. It's not easy.
Because our long snapper, he hurt his ankle.
Something like that. Anyway, Rams over Giants, yes?
Yeah. I mean, poor Giants.
Yeah, I do feel bad. The Daniel, you see him stumble after he got hit in the head.
That was so sad.
That was so not fun to watch.
How is he allowed to stand up after that?
I don't know. And then how is Saquon Barkley's ankle allowed to balloon up like that? Dude, that was gross. You gotta feel for Saquon Barkley. That is just so unfortunate. So unfortunate for him.
Missed all of last year except for one game because of an ACL tear, and then he just steps on the dude's foot.
I think the next 3 games, I think we're both going to take the Colts over the Texans. Yes.
Did I not put that one? Wait, what did you say? Colts
over the Texans.
Yeah.
All right. Chiefs over Washington.
Yeah.
Packers over the Bears.
Yeah.
Give me the Bengals over the Lions.
Man, this must be super entertaining to listen to just on audio.
Yeah, I know. Bengals. So that's why I'm trying to move it along. Bengals over the Lions.
Yes.
All right. So we have the Cardinals and the Browns. I'll take the Cardinals on the road against Baker and the Browns. Don't feel great about it, but I am going to roll with the Cardinals.
I feel pretty good about it.
Cowboys over the Patriots.
Yeah, big time.
All right. Like I said, I'm always going to take the Raiders. If I go down with the ship on the Raiders, then I feel fine with that. But I'll take the Raiders over the Broncos. Even though
I'm taking Denver.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to win, but I'm going to roll with them anyway, just because they're my team. Give me the Seahawks over the Steelers.
Are you sure?
No. But so it's going to be interesting because Najee Harris is questionable. His health is going to be really interesting.
Wait, what? I thought he just had cramps.
And now he's listed as questionable.
Really?
Yeah.
For what?
Says assuming no issues other than cramping arm play, Harris week 6 availability shouldn't be any danger, although we'll track his status once the Steelers begin prep for Sunday's game. So he's still listed as questionable.
You know it's bad when Sam knows more about your fantasy team than you do.
Okay, if he actually is playing, then I will change to the Steelers. Give me.
You think it's that big of a deal? Just Najee Harris?
I think it is. I think it is that big of a deal. He has been the absolute powerhouse for that offense.
What about Geno Smith at quarterback for Seattle?
It's tough, dude. What we're banking. Well, okay, let's pull back the curtain here. We're Geno Smith and Ben Roethlisberger right now. Who do you have more confidence in?
Ben.
Okay, Ben. Right. What about the teams as a whole?
Seattle's defense is trash.
Seattle's defense is trash.
It's got to be Pittsburgh.
Okay. Right. Yeah. That's what I said. I don't know why you're questioning me.
Yeah.
Okay, Pittsburgh. Okay.
You picked Seattle.
But I said if Najee Harris is playing, then yes, I'll pick the Steelers. So I picked the Steelers. So are we going with the Bills over the Titans? Okay. So is the only game we're differing on right now the Raiders and the Broncos?
That's not gonna fly.
I think that's the only game we're differing on right now.
I'm gonna take Carolina.
Okay. Do we need to flip on a third?
Dude, I wanted to take Detroit. I never thought I'd say that.
Are you gonna take the Ravens over the Chargers at home?
No, I like the Chargers too much.
Okay. We don't have to switch because we are doing percentages, remember?
No, but I want it. I switched the wrong one. I made this so poorly. I put Indy. This is why my brain was like melting when you asked me about Indianapolis and Houston. I accidentally put them at Monday Night Football.
Well, there you go.
So I couldn't find them. I was like, that's a matchup?
Are you going to take the Lions over the Bengals?
What are the other games that we could switch on? So Chargers.
You have the Cardinals and the Browns. You have the Chargers and the Ravens. That's probably it. You have the Seahawks and the Steelers. Dude, we can just leave it at 2 games and let the percentages speak for themselves.
I mean, Miami Jacksonville is a pretty tight one.
Maybe.
I don't want to root for Jacksonville.
So what? So you flipped with the Vikings and the Panthers. I think it would only make sense for me to flip.
No, it doesn't. There's no fairness or anything. Can you read me?
No, here. You know what? No. I got it. I will take the Seahawks. I went with them first. And I know that, but you are flipping on a game that you didn't pick originally. I will flip on a game that I don't feel good about.
Stop talking about it. No, if Najee Harris is going to play, you stick with Pittsburgh. Stop doing that.
Okay.
I will take the Jacksonville Jaguars and their grind mentality.
I feel like I feel like picking Detroit over Cincy is a better.
We just gave praise to Cincy.
We did, but we also gave praise to Detroit too. They got to get one eventually.
Who has Miami beaten?
Okay, we are running really long on this segment. You got to figure it out.
Who has Miami beaten? Can you tell me?
Who has Miami beaten? Miami has beaten just one team. They beat. Where is it? They beat the Patriots.
Houston?
That's it.
They beat. By 1. Yeah, I'm taking Jacksonville.
Okay. All right. That was way longer than I wanted it to be. Last wrap up thing for the show. The last move to change question, quote unquote. The Giants, the San Francisco Giants, when moving to baseball, are going to win the World Series. I just want to hear the fans' perspective on where you're sitting at right now with your team.
Dude, I feel really good. If Logan Webb can channel his inner Madison Bumgarner again and just absolutely deal, if they can get past the Dodgers, I think they can beat any team left in the playoffs.
So I told Sam because Sam is more invested in the Giants, obviously, than I am. Baseball is not something that I've really ever truly paid attention to all that well. But I told him I was going to watch these playoffs because I would like to get into baseball. I would like that to be something we could talk about on the show. And it has been so much fun watching them play. They have played really well. And Logan Webb has played fantastic. that play for Brandon Crawford the other night, which will be the other night. It'll be the Monday night game. That grab on that just dart that got hit right towards him. That was one of the more impressive plays I think I've seen in a while.
Dude, well, talk about the matches here. We have 2 on, 2 out. Was it Alex Wood on the mound? I think it was Tyler Rogers on the mound. Mookie Betts, former league MVP, $200 million man for the Dodgers. Dodgers leadoff man. Freaking stud. Like, everyone thinks he's top 5 player in the majors right now. Mookie Betts up at the plate. It's only a 1-run lead because Evan Longoria smashed a ball through a freaking tornado in LA. And Mookie jumps all over. I think it was, I can't remember the pitch, so I don't even want to say it. Jumps on something in the heart of the plate, crushes this ball. It's going to be a single. And out of nowhere, the camera switches to the field lens, and you see Brandon Crawford launch out of the air and grab this ball. If that ball is hit 2 feet to either side, that's a base hit. But because it was hit right at Crawford, he was able to go up and grab it. I think the play, I think it was game 1, wasn't it? The double play ball?
Yes.
Where Listella went backhand and then
Crawford thing. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that play. Woo!
And you really got to put it into perspective how hard, and we got to wrap it up here, but you got to really have to put it in perspective on how hard Longoria hit that ball, because the final out of that game was smashed. But I don't remember who hit it for the Dodgers.
Gavin Lux.
But yeah, just absolutely crushed it.
Mm-hmm.
And the announcers, it looked and it sounded like it was going to go out. Like as soon as it hit the bat, I was like, "Oh my god!" Not even the announcers
are like
pointed,
anything.
Yeah.
Lux points, I think, at the Dodgers dugout, like he just tied it up.
He's convinced.
MLB players know what a home run feels like and know what a home run sounds like. Mm-hmm. That ball was caught in the wind. And it happened earlier to, I think, Brandon Crawford's third at bat, because he hit one to left center that just fell on the warning track, and it seemed like it was going to be a homer.
And if you watch, because the announcers, like I said, they said that the ball just got caught by the wind. And if you watch, I think who's playing center field, because I think he hit it towards center field.
Duggar. Stephen.
Yeah,
Duggar.
if you watch him as he's running, he like stumbles.
Yeah,
when it shifts. Yeah, when it shifts, it's because he's watching it, and then all of a sudden it changes pace, and it's like, oh god, there it is. So
it's almost like the ball's in the air, going. Stephen Duggar sees it. He's thinking he's gonna have to meet it at the wall, and then the ball almost like comes backwards a little bit to go straight down.
Yeah, it just drops. Yeah, it was an interesting play, but it was a lot of fun to watch. Came right down to the very end. That's what you got. That's what you want in these playoffs. And it'll be, hopefully by this time, we're talking about the Giants when they've moved on. So
awesome for Evan Longoria. First home run he has since 2013. 8 years. That's a damn long time. And I think Buster Posey, his home run in game 1 was the first one since 2012. We're talking about some old dudes leading the best team in baseball. Duvall, the closer, 24-year-old, been called up, sent down, called up, sent down, called up again. Gets a
6 up, 6 down.
Gets a 6-out save against the LA Dodgers, the defending champs. I mean, you can't write this stuff. What an amazing 1-0 game.
Yeah. So, and you know what? The Rays, they're out. So maybe it's one of those things where you have potentially the best team in baseball who gets knocked out. So now on the other side, you have the Giants and the Dodgers. And then I've heard a lot of people talk about the Brewers maybe as a dark horse team to get through.
Yeah, Brewers are good.
So, but on the other side, who's now the favorite?
On the
Red Sox?
In the AL?
Yeah, is it the Red Sox?
I think it's probably Houston. Houston's leading Chicago right now. 2-1, I think, as we're recording this. They might have already made it to the ALCS. The Red Sox, there is something to be said about a team that comes out of that wild card game because they just ride that momentum. It happens almost every year where a team that makes the wild card and is able to find the resilience to win that one game and then just to move
Yeah.
on. It's almost like a boost, like an attribute boost to a team. So I'd be scared to play Boston.
Mhm.
And they're playing out of their mind. Man, they're getting Kike Hernandez is playing unreal. JD Martinez, Xander Bogarts, Nathan Evaldi's pitching really well. Chris Sale had a really poor outing, but I mean he's capable of playing really well. That team has the names to be
Yeah.
really scary, but so does Houston. I mean, Houston has the pedigree to do that. I think Chicago. I think Chicago's a tier below, which kind of sucks because they had a really great year. But yeah,
Well, we'll see what happens going forward. By the time we're recording, we'll have all of these answers. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode 105 of Nothing to Say to Fans podcast. If you stayed with us this long, again, as always, I don't know how, but I'm glad you did. So thank you guys so much. Have a fantastic week. Um, Enjoy the baseball. NHL started. So if you're into hockey, enjoy the hockey. Enjoy the football. Basketball starting up. It's a good time to be a sports fan. October rolls
Kangs,
around and
baby.
sports. Yep, October rolls around and sports kick in. So enjoy it because there is something for everybody. So have a great week, and we will see you all for episode 106.